Good afternoon, Wednesday, August 6th, about 4:25 in the afternoon as we tape the All 32 podcast. I am Mike Giardi. He, of course, is Will Parkinson. This show, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network, and, of course, brought to you by the #1 daily fantasy sports app in North America, PrizePicks. Download the code CLNS. Get $50 when you play 5. PrizePicks, run your game. I had a busy day today. We had the Patriots joint practices with the Commanders, which is what we're going to start with. But we've also got some other stuff to touch upon, including what Will has seen with the Jets, Keenan Allen resurfacing, and then, of course, Jerry Jones versus Micah Parsons, Chapter 37. But, Will, I want to start with this because I got a text from you. I don't know what time that was, around 1 o'clock, 1:30 or so, with a link to a tweet about Mike Vrabel being in the middle of a dust-up between the Patriots and Commanders in joint practices. I'll give you the backdrop. 11-on-11 team drill. And remind you, there's not supposed to be any fighting. Both coaches, Dan Quinn, Vrabel, didn't want any fighting. Trevion Henderson, the rookie running back, blitz pickup. I believe it was Von Miller. Pretty good contact. They end up on the ground. Next thing you know, they're rolling around. Everybody comes jumping in to defend their guys, or at least separate them, including the head coach of the New England Patriots, who dove headfirst into the pile. When he emerged from the pile, he was bleeding. I believe he's director of strength performance, I think is his title. Frank Pirano, who came with him from Tennessee's hulked up strength coach. He was in there trying to get people out, including G. Scott, who's an undrafted free agent for them. G. Scott was ready to turn and hit Frank Pirano in the face because he thought it was somebody else. Mercifully for Frank Pirano, he did not get clocked by his own guy. But you sent me the text and you're like, dude. And I have a theory. I don't know if it's true or not. We didn't get to talk to Mike after practice. And even if I presented him with this, he probably wouldn't answer it. But my thought was, he's talked a lot, Will, about culture, building culture, and how they're really starting from scratch here. And I think one of the messages he's been relaying to us is you got to play for each other, right? Which is a common thing, right? Yeah, every coach will say that's coach speak.
Yeah, of course.
But I think him diving into the pile was a welcome thing for him, in that he can then turn to his team and say, look what I did. This is what I want you to do. No, we don't want to have fights, but we want you to have each other's back. I have your back. Now play hard for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking it too much. Maybe it's just the old coach who was an old player who just wanted to get in the mix, but that's the best thing I could come up with. And I think based on how he's talked, I might be onto something. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually hope it's that and it's not him. Otherwise, it's like, what are you doing? I think that theory, if that's the case, makes a ton of sense. It's sending a message, etc. I bled, I'm bleeding for you. You guys got to bleed for me. The whole, you can go song and verse with that. If it's Mike just kind of losing his cool, then it's like, well, you got to be better than that. I know I'm going to sound like, oh, you're hating. I'm not hating. I'm just telling you that, unless it's a clear message, which I'm sure it is. I'm 90% chance that what you just laid out is exactly the case. Otherwise, it's like you cannot be getting involved there. So hopefully, and I think that's probably likely the case. That's exactly what happened. But yeah, joint practices, this is what happens. It's guys, this is the third week in the camp. A lot of teams have been hitting a lot more, and we've talked a lot about the Jets and how they've approached camping. They had 6 guys get pretty injured, yesterday. They were doing full speed 11-on-11 and then full speed 1-on-1 Oklahoma drills. So week 3 at camp, this is what happens. You finally start to hit somebody else. Everyone's tired. Guys are fighting for their livelihood. I thought Quincy Williams had the best tweet of the offseason that was describe training camp. It's someone trying to take food away from my family, and I have to go take some away from theirs. And, Von Miller is the guy who is still trying to put food on his family's plate, even though he's no longer very good. So I think Vrabel likely was sending a message. Mike, I was curious to your observations because I feel like, you had a really nice tweet. I was following along, obviously, and you had a good tweet outlining kind of what occurred. But it felt like Drake Maye had a really good day, and it felt like some of the offense had a really strong day, but at the same time, the defense potentially may have struggled a bit. Can you kind of walk me through, I guess, from both sides, what it looked like? Because me and you were both, I think, on the Commanders front. They're a better team this year, but maybe going to have a worse record. New England, we think, is going to be much improved. So where do those two teams shake out against? First time you're hitting a different color, week 3 at camp.
Yeah, first of all, there was an incredible buzz at practice today. I got to say, it's been a while. Patriots had a joint practice at home last year against Philadelphia and got absolutely panned. I mean, it was about embarrassing a performance, and really, as you look back on what happened during the year,
it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, pretty good indication of how far away you were from being a good football team. In fact, how badly the operation had gone. This was not that overfilled crowd. It was pretty awesome, great energy. Drake had the ball coming out of his hand quickly. Talked today post-practice about sort of the question was basically like, has Josh given you some – are there outlets in this offense that take you away from trouble at times? And he said, yeah. He's like, that's sort of like a built-in safety in this offense. And you're seeing him – think less, react quicker, ball comes out of his hand faster. I think that's been a priority all camp long, and I think you're seeing some dividends of that. I certainly thought you saw them today. He got intercepted once, and it was – look, I think he got a little too cocky. Pop Douglas streaking open on a slant in the red zone. I think he just locked onto him. Bobby Wagner read his eyes, got his hands on the ball. Ball pops up in the air. Mikey Sanders still with the interception, but by and large, I thought it was a really good, clean day for him. Very effective. Pop Douglas continues to have a really good camp. He had a good camp last year when he got back on the field. He missed, I believe, like the first week or so. And then, 66 catches, but someone had to catch passes. He feels like he's going to a different place this year. We'll see if that place is as a legit number 2. I know there are some people in the media here. He's a 1. Well, I don't know what 1 we're comparing him to. I'm not there yet. I'm not, I need to actually see game evidence of that. And sustain game evidence of that before, but I think it's been a good sign for him. You asked about the defense. I thought the defense got off to an awful start today. Jaden Daniels was ripping them apart. Zach Ertz, who is about 107 years old, had the awesome year last year. Looks every bit as good this year as he did last year.
He's just as old as Mike.
As he did against the Patriots. Like he was just – they could not cover him. And it was – whether it was at the linebacker level with Bobby Spillane, with Jack Gibbons, with Christian Ellis, or the safeties, Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Jalen Hawkins, like no answer for him early on. But as practice progressed, I think one of the keys was they started to get the defensive line started to do some work. It was Harold Landry. It was Christian Barmore. There were a couple of reserves that actually got in the mix as well and created some problems. And the ball had to get out of Daniel's hands quicker, or he would have been sacked. Obviously, they're not taking the quarterback to the ground in this situation. So on a couple plays where I recorded as a sack, Daniels runs around and throws the ball, and to me, the play's already dead. I thought that was key. I think the other thing that really jumped out to me, and I guess it's a good thing for the Patriots and it's a bad thing for Washington, I thought the Patriots corners, and reminder, there's no Christian Gonzalez, there's no Carlton Davis right now. Both those guys still not practicing with injury. They locked up the Washington outside players. That includes Debo. That includes McCaffrey, which if I'm Terry McLaurin, he didn't make the trip, but I'm reading the tweets.
I'm bringing the practice film in.
Yeah. And I'm saying, I know you guys want to pay me more like Cortland Sutton, but have you seen your receiving core? Because I think there's a dramatic drop-off. Alex Austin was good today for the Patriots. Kobe Minor, the rookie 7th rounder. DJ James, the undrafted kid from 2 years ago from the University of Auburn. They all had pretty good days today. Kobe got beat on one play, but like by and large, pretty competitive. But I look at that and say, is it because those Patriot players are that good? Or is it because in part the Commanders receivers aren't that good? But I did think it was a good answer for them. And if you had to say to me who had the better day, I would say the Patriots had the better day, not by a long shot. I think it was close, but I think at the end of it, when you kind of totaled all the good plays and what I was able to observe and what Greg Bedard, my boss, was able to observe, I felt like the Patriots probably came out with a slight edge. So,
Mike, I want to ask you about something that Greg brought up. I just saw it kind of aggregated that this was one of the latest training camps he had witnessed. I want to ask you before we kind of move on to a couple other things around the league, but do you feel the same way? If that was something you've observed, obviously they're, like very competitive today. So it's, potentially, a good thing. I don't think they've had some injuries, but it's more to, guys like Gonzalez and Davis, unfortunately, who have been hurt quite often in their career thus far. I know Gonzalez was a freak thing, but like he's been in the league 2 years and missed one of them. So now you feel like they are going to be ready for week 1. Do you feel like it's light camp? Has it been intense? I know you mentioned this the first couple of days, and I was wondering if that's continued for you.
Yeah, so to me, I think the So they've had 3 walkthroughs in 12 practices. So that's generally, I would say it's probably a little bit, that's probably one more than we would have seen in a Belichick camp. And last year, Mayo ran a hard camp. They practiced long. They did a lot of contact. Obviously helped them in week 1. Should have helped them in week 2, but they fell apart down the stretch in that game. And then, as we know, the rest of the season went off the rails. Greg I thought the point made by Greg was interesting in that he looked back at Vrabel's starts in Tennessee, and by and large, they weren't that great. And you wonder if he's sort of building in September, doing the old Belichick thing where September's just sort of, we're still trying to find ourselves. And maybe the Patriots are approaching it that way. There's risk to that, obviously, because I think a lot of people think that their schedule that first month is very workable, whether that's running the table, whether that's 3-1, whatever the dreams are that people have. I think some people sort of point to that, and you wonder if you're not pushing them on the field like this, if it's going to be a little bit slower a start in September than maybe they could afford to, based on the schedule and based on the overall talent of their roster. But I still say when they're actually practicing, when they're not doing the walkthrough stuff, that even if there hasn't been a ton of hitting, that there's no wasted time. And I think I've mentioned this before, Mayo had 2.5 hour practices, but you'd look at it after it was over and you go, boy, you probably could have done that in an hour and 50 minutes, if you just had some organization and some tempo to practice and not had these ridiculous 10-minute water breaks. And not that you're not supposed to, take care of your players, but 10-minute water break, or let's get on to the next thing. And I feel like that's something that they've done a really good job of at this camp, is sort of keeping everybody moving, keeping everyone engaged, and honestly taking advantage of the time that they have out on the field. So I guess it remains to be seen whether or not this will be hurtful or helpful in the long term, or when we get into September. But for now, I don't really have too many beefs with it. I guess it is a little bit surprising because Vrabel is a older school
90s.
Yeah, but I think these are the rules now, and I'm going to figure out the best way to manage my football team. I'll give you one other thing with this. I do also wonder if maybe part of this is because he looks at the roster and he says, okay, I'm okay at 1 deep in a lot of spots, but if I have to go to the second guy, like the offensive line, for instance, if I have to go to a second, my backup left tackle, I don't even know who that is right now. If I have to go to my backup right tackle, it's a competition between DeMontre Jacobs, who wasn't good last year, and Marcus Bryant, who was a left tackle at University of Missouri and was a 7th-round pick. I don't know that gives you a ton of confidence. We can run our offense and have a good offense if Morgan Moses gets hurt or Will Campbell.
I wanted to ask you quickly about Moses. Doug Hyde had a tweet that he was working with the 3rd team today. Is that straight injury prevention? Is he just kind of a veteran? They're going to try to just get through camp as healthy as possible. We talked a little bit about him maybe a week and a half ago and him struggling transparently early on. What do you make of that before we kind of move on?
Yeah. So I'm not, well, like I said, I'm a small c concerned about how he was playing. I think it's clear that they're managing him and that this is all about getting you to the first weekend in September and being ready to play a game, and hopefully being ready to play 17 games, which is obviously something he hasn't done in the last couple of years. So to me, would you like to see him out there? Yes, but I also understand at 34, we're not talking about a guy who's in prime. We're talking about a guy who's he's a placeholder, a veteran placeholder who they're paying a decent amount of money to. So they've got to get something out of him. And if this is what they feel is the best way to get something out of him, then that's what they got to do. Because I think when they signed him, I said to you, I didn't think they'd play 17 games. I don't think you can count on that at this point. Just like what I feel about Diggs. Diggs has been out at every practice, but do I think at 31 going on 32 that you can pencil him in for 17 games? Probably not. Those days are probably gone. So how do you make sure that you get those guys into September as healthy as they can be? Because as we know, once you start playing, then your body's going to take the dings, and then we'll see if you can play through it or not.
100%. No, 100% agree. I think, like I said, I saw that tweet and I was like, huh. Is it just prevention, or why is he working the 3rd team? That just felt weird.
Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking about this a little bit because, when I first started covering the league in '99, full time, you're doing this thing, and that's 2-a-days, and I'm going way back, and obviously those days are long gone and hard to find. But Belichick, somewhere in that 02, 03, 04, somewhere in that range, started giving guys days off. And you're like, huh, Willie McGinnis isn't out here today. Why is that? And like no one would say anything, And then, oh, Brewski's not here the next day. What's going on? Are these guys hurt? Are they sick? What? And then whatever, somebody found out. It was just like, I'm not really worried about them. Like,
they don't need the reps.
Yeah, they've done this long enough that it's okay to take them off their feet for a practice and not have them go through 2 days in 90-degree heat. Like, we don't need to do that. So, obviously less practice time, etc. But you're talking about a 34-year-old player. Probably makes sense to not give him the full workload 100%. At this point. Yeah. But before we transition to, I do want to ask you one question about joint practice, and then we'll get to what you've seen from the Jets. I'm going to talk about PrizePicks, obviously. Yep. Great daily fantasy sports action, over 10 million members. You pick more or less on 2 players, up to 6, to win 2,000 times your cash. I talk about this all the time, but to me, it's the best thing, or one of the best things about it, is you can cross sports. You've got baseball, you've got basketball, soccer. We'll have football soon enough. And again, you're looking at stat lines, and it's more or less touchdowns, more or less rushing yards, more or less innings pitched, strikeouts, goals scored, etc. And you can combine those and make yourself have yourself a little fun there. As always, though, put down what you can afford to lose, because you don't always win. So just download the code. Download the app. Use the code CLNS to get 50 off your first 5. Again, download the app today. Use the code CLNS to get 50 off your first 5. PrizePicks, run your game. Before we transition to the Jets, I did want to ask you about joint practices, because the point is being made as I was driving around today.
Yeah.
After practice by Michael Felger, who has the radio show from 2 to 6 here in Boston. And he's like, I think joint practices should be outlawed. All right, dude, relax. Some of it is whatever. It's talk radio. But one of his points was that it really has weakened the preseason. A preseason game on Friday. I mean, Dan Quinn basically said, you're going to see a lot of guys get work here today, and on Friday you're probably not going to see. So I don't expect to see Jaden Daniels, or if you do, you're going to see him for a series, and it's going to be some simple stuff. And make sure you get the ball out of your hand in case there's any pressure, because we can't have you get hurt. And Vrabel's sort of non-committal at this point. I would expect some of the guys to play, but I'm just not sure if they'll play a lot, and probably won't, as we've seen pretty much every team adopt. And I just wanted to kind of get your take on the joint practices and what it's done to preseason games, and if there is a way to make preseason more watchable, people, season ticket holders pay big money, and they've got these tickets, and now it's like, well, why do I want to go in 3 hours of traffic each way to Gillette Stadium to watch Ben Woolridge, the third-string quarterback, play 3 quarters?
Yeah, look, I think, probably a little bit of McVay and Shanahan and those guys kind of, unfortunately, they've skipped on the combine, they skip on the Senior Bowl, they skip on some of the draft stuff, they skip on some of the things in camp. It's all about kind of, working towards January, and that's totally acceptable. I think if the CBA allowed you to have more 2-a-days or more hitting in camp and these different things, I don't think joint practices would be as necessary. I think the problem is guys don't want their guys to get hurt, but they also need to evaluate them playing against another team. Mm-hmm. And you want to kind of have a measuring stick. There's a really hard balance. And I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong. I think the biggest issues with joint practices is a lot of times they're really useless because teams just fight the whole time. You don't get anything done, and no one wants to show anyone anything real. So in that sense, yeah, you wish it was during the preseason. I think, Quincy Williams talked about this the other day at his presser, and he was like, we kind of asked him what he thought about the tackling and just in Jets practice overall. And he said, it prepares you so that the first time you get hit in the preseason, you're actually bringing someone to the ground, your body's not totally thrown off. So there's got to be a happy medium here. I maybe like the idea of only one only one joint practice a summer. And it kind of forces you a little bit, in a sense, to have maybe, a little more urgency with playing a little bit in the preseason. But again, Mike, I think the issue is a guy gets hurt at practice. Oh, it's practice. That's unfortunate. A guy gets hurt in a preseason game. Vrabel sits up there and Drake Maye gets rolled up on and rolls the ankle for 4 weeks. In a preseason game, everyone freaks out. If it happens in practice, people are pissed. But at the same time, it's, oh, man, that just happened. So long story short, I'll play Switzerland here and say, like, they're beneficial in somewhat senses. I like the one-on-ones and I like a lot of those different things because it's nice to see these guys compete against not the same guy. Because, again, like, Olu was going against Will McDonald and Armand Nambu for 3 straight weeks here. Like, they know each other
Yeah.
in and out. You want to see them against a different color, but at the same time, if these guys are not going to play a ton in the preseason, like, and no one can force them to do it, at least I'd like to know we have the option of a joint practice. But again, like, there is some uselessness to them in terms of showing anything in terms of scheme. And again, the fights, I know they're fun sometimes and whatever. They make practice unenjoyable because you can't get anything done, and the coaches hate it. Like, you ask any of these coaches, they cannot stand it when 20 minutes of practice is just breaking guys up. Unless you're Mike Vrabel and you pull
unless
up,
you're Mike Vrabel and now you
fight.
got your message. You've now delivered your message. Privately, you were like, "Yes, this is exactly what I needed."
Did you watch the election and think, like, I've seen this before?
Beautiful. Let's transition. You mentioned Quincy Williams. You had a tweet. Quincy entering the final year of his contract, but they have at least done something for him this year to give him an opportunity to make more money. And based on all the tweets that you and others that are covering the team have fired off, it seems like Quincy Williams is he's poised for a big year.
Yeah, he. It's funny. We asked him Thursday. Said, "Hey, what are your goals for the season?" He said, "I'm the best linebacker duo in the league, and we're the best linebacker duo in the league." And we're like, "What? What?" Like, more of like, that's your goal? And he's like, "No, we're the best linebacker duo." It's like, he's like, "I don't have any goals. My goals are we're the best. Like, get the Jets to the playoffs and whatever." But he was like, Quincy wants to be an All-Pro again. He's one of the best linebackers in the league, and he's one of the most underpaid players. He's on the last year of a 3-year, $18 million deal. Quincy's probably a $15 to $20 million a year linebacker every year, let alone his entire value of his deal. He had some incentives in the deal in terms of sacks and playoff appearance and stuff. This year, they added more additional cash for him to be able to kind of, hey, like, your counterpart who's a 1-year starter is making double what you're making and you're an All-Pro. Let's kind of give you some achievable, money to kind of go out there and get. So, I thought that was good. Quincy's been fantastic. He's had a really strong camp. Both the entire Jets defense generally, especially the back seven, has been really, really impressive. Like, Sauce has never looked better. Brandon Stevens is getting his head around on, plays now, which is a shocker if you're a Ravens fan.
Yes.
Fields has been up and down, Mike.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because again, this comes down to the idea is,
what are we on year four of if the quarterback
can just competent right? Competent is the word I keep using. It's just give me competent quarterback play, and with the talent that they have, especially on defense, that should be enough to put you in the mix for, at least playing meaningful December football, if not January.
Yeah, the offensive especially they're one deep. Some of the Patriots, they're one deep. Most spots looks pretty good. They need another defensive tackle. They need another receiver. Probably could use another linebacker. It's really quarterback it comes down to. And I think Fields is impossible to evaluate during camp because a lot of his game is using his legs, and the Jets are encouraging him to not do so at the moment because you want to develop the passing game and get these reps in, get receivers reps. There's been some drops. There's been some miscommunications. He's had some really strong days where he's really accurate. He's had other days where he looks pretty bad. And by bad, it's not like he's the worst player at quarterback. He's not Zach Wilson bad, but he's like Justin Fields in Chicago at points, and he's also Justin Fields in Pittsburgh with better protection and offensive line and creativity. So I'm not worried yet. I will say there needs to be improvement as the summer goes along. This last 3 days, look, the Jets are in a camp in which we'll see what happens if it works. I think Aaron Glenn looking to find out who's about that life and who's not. They've hit a lot, Mike. I mean, they have. It was like they've run as close to a 90s training camp as you can possibly run in today's day and age. Again, if it works, it works. It's amazing. I think it'll lighten up a little bit. The Jets defense is also really good, so it's hard to sometimes be like give the offense such a hard time. But Fields needs to get probably 20% better the rest of camp to feel decent. It comes down to this: if Fields sucks this year, he'll either get benched or cut at the end of the year, and the Jets will draft a rookie. If Fields is mildly good, he'll be the bridge guy, and if he's awesome, he'll be a great value. Baker, Geno, Sam situation, but he kind of just has to be like the 22nd or 21st best quarterback, not the 28th. It's achievable, but he's gonna have to it's just Mike. He holds the ball. Like that's his thing. It's Engstrand has stressed it over and over again. So the legs look great. The running game looks really good. The defense looks awesome. The kicking game is improving. It's literally on someone else needs to establish themselves outside of Garrett, which has been inconsistent. And Fields needs to get the ball out of his hands quicker, and they need to catch the football. Enough Allen Lazard. Let's give some of these young guys a shot because Lazard's man, that dude, the way his ability to catch is impressive that somebody's in the league this long.
Allen Lazard making friends wherever he goes with the
Mike, it's a great example. We always it's show me, don't tell me in the league, right? Teams can say they want to do all these things, and Allen Lazard took a $8 million pay cut. If you thought you had any type of market, you would never have done that. So, point being, I think he's very much well aware what his status in the NFL is at this point. Without
you would think though that might piss him off, and maybe he'd work on some of his weaknesses and maybe come back and show people.
I don't know if that's really in the toolbox there.
Oh, okay, all right, fair. All right, let's move on. Keenan Allen has re-upped 1-year deal, I believe, worth up to $8 million with the Los Angeles Chargers. Look, Keenan Allen in Chicago was a borderline disaster. I believe we could use the term bully. Year. Was he a bit of a bully last year to Caleb Williams?
Yeah.
So, look, the Chargers receiver room is so bad that this is sort of like, they're showing you again how bad it is by having to make this move. But I don't know. I don't know what he has left in the tank.
What happens if Keenan Allen also gets brought back and retires in the next 2 weeks?
he gets into Harbaugh's camp.
They run back.
I don't want to do this.
At least he has rapport with Herbert. He probably needs to be their third or fourth option. They're going to run the football. Can he just be like a good, steady end of the career number 3 that Herbert trusts? That's really all you're asking for at this
45
point.
45 catches, 50 catches.
Can you go 45 to 50 catches, 600 yards, 4 or 5 touchdowns, and just be a good guy around the locker room and be happy and get to maybe play in some playoff games and win a playoff game, etc. That's what I view this signing as. If and when Amari Cooper signs, I'm going to say the same thing. Can you just provide a floor? I think part of the problem for the Chargers is the floor is really low outside of McConkey. So can you provide some of these other guys some stability? I'm not expecting a ton. I think anyone that sees the name is going to expect a lot. He was pretty bad last year. I know he was hurt, but I didn't enjoy watching him play football last year the way I had watched him the previous decade. So my take on it is makes sense. I get it, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend maybe Keenan Allen has a little bit of a renaissance period for a couple weeks, but you're likely getting a number 3 receiver at this point in his career.
Yeah, again, it comes down to they didn't have enough there.
Their existing relationship didn't have a ton. He's not expensive. He knows Herbert. Yeah. It's one of those. I get it.
Yeah. Hey, we'll roll it. We'll roll the dice and hope, as we talk about, he can be that sort of 3-4-ish guy, and maybe he has a game or two where he gets hot. He's on a little bit of a heater. He's got a mismatch, and he's having a good day, and his body feels good that day, and he does some things. Before we wrap this up, I have to bring up my
Joe Milton. No.
Oh, good old Jerry Jones, who has said he is not confident that Micah Parsons will be playing in week 1. This comes on the heels of just a pure lunacy that's come out of his mouth in the last, I didn't even know however long this impasse has gone on with Micah Parsons. You and I both believe he's not going to get traded, but this feels like it's something that's going to linger for a while. And I do wonder if it casts, a bit of gives a little bit of bad juju for a Cowboys team coming off a bad season last year where they won just 7 games.
There's one side note on Micah. I'll be very quick on Micah, but if you're New England, you've called, right? Or you very much should at least call and say, Just curious,
Yeah,
just out
so
of curiosity.
I've thought about this. I've had people present this to me, and I'm thinking to myself,
Everyone keeps saying the Jets, and I'm just confused. Like, I don't know where that's coming from.
well, like the Khalil Mack deal, all right, was 2 firsts, a third, and a sixth. They got back a second as part of the deal. I don't know if it was that year or the
I think it
following
was the year
year.
following, yeah.
Yeah. That's just a lot for a team that you drafted poorly, and you think you had a good draft this year. We'll see how it plays out on the field. But then, like, you want to dip into it? I understand he's 26 years old. He is a premier player in the league, and you've got 3 or 4 more years of him in his absolute prime. And then who knows? Who knows what happens when he hits 30? But are you ready for that? It's almost like, to me, it's a year too early. And I could actually make the case, and some people might shout me down, but I could make the case that Terry McLaurin might be more valuable for this football team where it is right now than Micah Parsons is. And not that McLaurin is the same level of player as Mike is, but there's a level of professionalism. The production, as we know, 70-something catches, 1,000 yards every year, 6-7 touchdowns. Put him with Drake Maye. Maybe Diggs is still, like, you could make the case, like, oh, that could take this offense and kick it up another level, and maybe, 10 wins isn't unrealistic. 11 wins, like, you could maybe, who knows? You could maybe start to tweak the system. Your defense is supposed to be pretty good. You don't have a Micah Parsons, don't get me wrong, but, like, I don't know. I just think it's a lot to give up. If I'm giving up a second and a sixth for Terry McLaurin versus 2 1s, a 3 and a 6, and then having to pay Micah Parsons $160 million, probably all of it guaranteed or something close, I don't know. It's pretty steep.
Yeah. The Jets have been mentioned. They're somehow the betting favorites for both players. Darren Muji hasn't signed a single guy other than Nick Folk over the age of 26. So I don't know where the McLaurin thing's coming from. I guess the Ohio State stuff and the Jets needing a receiver. I would be floored. Again, it would be awesome, but for the Jets, but I don't see that happening. Mike, I think this is classic public negotiating through the media. Jerry kind of making Cowboy fans be like, oh, Micah, you got to sign. You can't miss games. And I don't know. Just to me, like, I know we have to talk about it. It's like boring. Like, I know that sounds so like.
It's the same as it's ever been. It's Zach Martin. It's CeeDee Lamb last year. It's Dak Prescott the year before that.
It's Tank Lawrence. It was all Diggs. It's like,
I don't like the way he talks about his guys.
And also, what is him having buying the Cowboys have anything? The way he bought the Cowboys on a handshake deal have anything to do with Micah Parsons?
I mean, look. First of all, you're just not supposed to do it. It's quote unquote not legal by the rules of the CBA. So if you want to finish a deal, the agent has to be in the room. He has to be involved. So you could say you had this. Well, when you start talking language, no, that's not what he thought, or this, that, the other thing. I don't know.
You think Micah knows what it's happening in terms of cash flow each year? Not that Micah's not a smart guy, but like he has no idea what's going on with some of that stuff. You have law degrees for that. Like we don't have. I just get the deal done already and move on.
Yes, that's why we have people like Jason from Over the Cap to like, hey, Jason, what the hell does this mean? Can you translate this for some jamoke like me? It'll be, to me, it's probably going to get done. It's going to get done. It has to get done. But like, I don't know why you're going to talk about your players that way. I mean, he's given you a lot. As I mentioned last week, 63 of 67 games plus all their playoff games. Jerry's talking about him being hurt. Like, what are you saying, man? It's like, are you on this planet?
You got a concussion in a playoff game, and what's he supposed to do about that?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. He let's put it. He annoys the crap out of me, and I think it would be awesome if Micah told him to go. You know what?
But maybe also if Micah just didn't show up, but he won't, and he's gonna. It's just
because it's just at the end of this whole process, it's still money. You're walking away from money. Like
it's $50,000 a day if he's not there, and
then if you don't show up for week 1, then it's just
I'm sure
you're not getting paid, man. Yeah, I don't know too many people, if any, who would say, you know what? No, I'm good. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to take that money.
There's one, Hassan Reddick, the GOAT.
You're right. You know what? Shame on me for forgetting that. Shame on me. But I know that you, having lived through the trauma of Hassan Reddick last year,
it's got the shakes.
Was quick to pick me up on that. Hassan Reddick, God bless you. For those listening to the show, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, like, and leave a review. For those watching on the show on CLNS, hit the like button, subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find our show and other Patriot and League content. Also, please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the instant a new video drops. He is Will, I am Mike, and we will see you later in the week.